Hey there, welcome back to the channel. So, if you want to make $1 million or more per year as a consultant, then there are certain things you need to avoid. There are certain types of consulting projects that you may not want to delve into. Now, I will say that these very consulting projects do allow others to make $1 million, and you understand what I mean. All right. But if you are serious about making at least $1 million or more per year as an independent consultant, then there's one industry that you probably want to avoid or at least understand what it takes to do so before delving in. And that consulting niche is development consulting. And within development consulting, there are sub niches as well. But in development consulting, like any other consulting niche, there are generally three business models that you can choose from. So there is the individual consultant. So you're an independent individual consultant. This is where you offer your services personally, you do the work, and you get paid. Whether it be impact evaluation, whether it be a baseline study, a midterm evaluation, an end-line evaluation, or whether it's a cost benefit analysis, or a training or strategic planning facilitation, or financial audit. Well, audits are usually hired out to firms anyway, but generally there are those individual projects where you are hired as an individual consultant. The next structure that exists in the independent consulting world is the agency structure. The agency structure is where you have a firm and you mobilize a pool of consultants. These are not your employees, but they give you permission to utilize their CVs in sourcing contracts. So you get a contract that's intended for a firm, and you have this pool of consultants that you reach out to implement. What is the other way around? You actually, when a request for proposal is put out, you then want to read that proposal and understand it, and then identify the consultants, the individual consultants in your pool or in your network, who will join you to make up a good team to apply for this project. And then collectively you develop a proposal in response to the request, and if your firm lands the project, then of course you are implementing along with the team. How you make money? Two ways: by your own efforts if you're working directly on the project as well, but also there's a markup between what you pay the consultants and what you get paid. And so that also is a source of income. So oftentimes you will find that, for somebody with 8 to 10 years experience, depending on the client, and there are ways to look at that, you will find that the firm will bill the client maybe $800 a day and will pay the consultant $500 a day, or will bill the client $600 and pay the consultant $400 or $350. So there's somewhat of a high margin in between, because this is the margin that's also used to cover a lot of unforeseen expenses. Even though management cost is usually factored into the proposal, but there are other expenses that you might want to you will definitely encounter, and these markups help to cover those costs. And then there is the model of the full company. This is the model that usually you find the big five or big 10, whatever, mostly the big five consulting type companies, employ. And this is where consultants are hired and they're placed on a monthly salary plus bonuses, and they work full time for these companies, because these companies have large pools of clients, and they exist, and their structure is different. So, But when it comes to the independent consulting business, you would definitely most likely have to work with the first two models that I talked about, and that is the individual consulting and the agency model. Okay. Now, with the agency model, you still will have one of or two permanent employees, maybe an accounts person, or you could have one or two permanent employees depending on how again you form it. If you have a physical office somewhere, you probably need somebody at the front desk, or administrative assistant, so, but not more than that, but generally those two. So now let's come back to why development consulting may not be the best option for you if your goal is to earn $1 million or more per year as a consultant. Well, for one, if you do not fancy the agency model so much, and maybe, personally, I enjoy working quickly, and the turnaround time with individual consultancies are faster than the agency models. So in the development consulting world, if a firm is being sought, turnaround time is much longer versus if an individual consultant is being sought. And I just like to work easily. Again, I'm a person who flexibility and freedom are great, high values of mine. And so the individual consultant model is what I've leveraged a lot. And in this model, I bid for projects as an individual consultant. Now, what happens is in the industry, based on experience and a number of things, rates have been set, incomes have been capped at certain place based on your experience, your academic qualification, and what country. And so you find that the clients you serve, these international development organizations, have already preset budgets, like, okay, we can only pay $400 a day for this consultancy, or we can pay $500 a day, or 300 or 350. So when you go for projects, you are not really bidding based on the value you think you're bringing, but it's based on what the client values the role to be. So you are limited. Now, the money can be good, but you are limited because you don't really determine. In rare cases, you are able to negotiate above what the client had in mind if the budget is there, if they have the money, and you've been able to demonstrate that you are the best, really best option, and there are no other options out there for them to pursue. So if you find yourself in that situation, then of course you can negotiate higher. But even then, you're still limited by the client's budget. Unlike providing the same service or similar service in the business world, where you can negotiate a lot more based on the value you bring into the client. You can charge a percentage of results. The model is a lot flexible when you're working with small and medium enterprises, or even large corporations, compared to when you're working with international development organizations. So that's one thing that you definitely want to have at the back of your mind when you're working in international development consulting. You could still get a good contract where you earn $500 a day. $500 a day times 5 days, that's 2,500, times a month, that's 10K. So earning six figures in international development consulting is very easy. Again, if you're working in the right environment, but it's generally possible. But doing seven figures as an individual consultant is a whole different ball game. As a firm, you could do seven figures because you can land a $5 million project over 5 years. That's spread out. That's $1 million in revenue a year, and you could have your margins. So as the founder of the firm, depending on how you play it out, you could probably do $200,000-300,000 a year, and you could also have a $25 million project over the same 4 or 5 years. And in that case, depending on how you manage your project, you could end up completing everything and you still have a couple of $1 million left at the end of the day. So but then again, that's over 4 or 5 years. So again, development consulting is great. It has a great income potential, but if becoming a millionaire and earning at least $1 million a year in personal income is your goal, then development consulting or international development consulting just might not be the option for you. All right. Um, that said, if you're interested or you think that international development consulting is a space that you want to delve in, I've got some videos that I did a few years back. I will link, I think up here, I will link I will place those videos, one of them here, and that's the different careers in international development consulting. And then I think there's a whole playlist that I'll just link up in there. There's a different careers in international development consulting. There's also I did a training on how to land your first client in 30 days. So my background has been heavily in international development consulting. So definitely, I will bring you a lot of those experiences. All right. So until next time, peace. Be safe.